Have you ever just looked around at a forest, a river, or even thought about the minerals deep underground and figured, hey, these are just free gifts from nature? It's a super common assumption, right? We kind of tend to view the physical world as this massive, unlimited buffet just waiting for us to grab a plate. But today, I actually want to challenge that assumption right out of the gate. Sure, nature provides the raw materials, but what actually transforms a random lump of rock or a rushing river into something truly valuable?
Welcome to today's Explainer. We are going to completely unpack the fascinating world of resources and development. We'll be taking a literal macro to micro journey together. We're starting way out with sweeping global ideas about how we manage what the Earth gives us and zooming all the way down to the actual microscopic dirt beneath our feet. Okay, let's dive into this. Here's our roadmap. First, we'll bust the myth of free resources. Then, we'll look at planning for sustainable survival. After that, we'll cover our shrinking land assets. And finally, we'll explore the living world of soil.
All right, part 1, the myth of free resources.
So, a resource isn't just anything sitting out there in nature. To truly become a resource, an object has to meet 3 absolutely crucial conditions. It must be technologically accessible, economically feasible, and culturally acceptable. Think about it like this. If there's a super rare mineral buried miles underground, but we literally don't have the mining tech to reach it, well, it's not a resource yet. Or say we can reach it, but it costs way more to mine than it's actually worth, then it completely fails the economic test. The secret ingredient here is actually us, human beings. We are the ones who actively transform our raw environment into a usable resource.
And because we are that secret ingredient, human beings sit right at the center of everything. We don't just sit back and passively receive things from the physical environment. No, we actively interact with nature through our technology. And to speed up our economic development, we build institutions. It's this highly active, interconnected web. Simply put, resources are absolutely a direct function of human activities.
Now, the second human beings get involved, the whole resource picture gets incredibly complex. We generally split resources into 2 big buckets, natural and human. If you follow that natural branch down, it splits again into renewable things like wind and water and non-renewable things like fossil fuels and metals. We kind of tend to think of resources as just one big generic category, but breaking it down like this really reveals the incredible diversity of what we rely on and honestly, why managing it all requires some serious careful thought. Which brings us perfectly to part 2, planning for sustainable survival.
You know, Mahatma Gandhi provided a really profound moral anchor for this entire topic. He said, there is enough for everybody's need and not for anybody's greed. It hits hard, doesn't it? He recognized way early on that irrational consumption and, frankly, the greed of just a few individuals could easily lead to global ecological crises. It's a pretty stark reminder that resource management isn't just some dry economic puzzle. It is very much an ethical one. Over the decades, that exact philosophy started scaling up globally. Back in 1968, a group called the Club of Rome began systematically pushing for conservation. Then, fast forward a bit to 1987, and the Brundtland Commission report officially introduced a term I'm sure you hear everywhere today: sustainable development. The whole idea of developing without compromising future generations. This momentum just kept building until it culminated in 1992 at the Rio de Janeiro Earth Summit. Over 100 heads of state gathered in Brazil to adopt Agenda 21, which was basically a massive global game plan to combat environmental damage.
But if we bring this massive global concept down to a national level, you start seeing some really striking regional disparities. Let's take a vast country like India, for example. You've got states like Jharkhand and Madhya Pradesh that are literally sitting on gold mines. Well, technically minerals and coal, but you get the idea. They are incredibly wealthy in that regard. But then, look at Rajasthan. It has abundant solar and wind energy, but it suffers from severe water deficiency. Or take the cold desert of Ladakh. Beautiful, rich cultural heritage, but it's isolated and lacks water, infrastructure, and vital minerals. This right here proves exactly why national resource planning isn't just some boring bureaucratic option. It is an absolute necessity for survival and balanced growth.
So how does a country actually pull that off? How do you plan for those disparities? Well, in India, they tackle it with a highly complex 3-step strategy. Step 1 is identification and inventory. Because, let's face it, you can't manage what you haven't measured. This involves surveying and mapping resources across the entire country. And just imagine trying to accurately survey an entire subcontinent. It is a monumental task. Step 2 is evolving a planning structure. This basically means getting the exact right technology, the right skills, and the right institutions in place to actually develop the resources you just mapped. And finally, Step 3. Matching those highly specific resource plans with the overall national development plans. It's a massive, coordinated logistical dance.
Now let's zoom in a little closer for part 3, our shrinking land assets.
When we talk about physical land, especially in a place like India, we are dealing with a strictly finite budget. It's broadly divided into 3 main zones. 43% of the land area is plains, which is that crucial prime real estate providing the literal foundation for our agriculture and industry. Then you have mountains making up 30%, which are absolutely vital for keeping rivers flowing year-round and maintaining ecological balance. And the remaining 27%, those are the plateaus. That's essentially the vault holding our rich reserves of minerals, fossil fuels, and forests. Every single percentage point has a vital job. There's literally no backup land we can just order online.
Which brings me to a really important number, 33%. Way back in 1952, that was the specific target set for the amount of forest cover needed to maintain ecological balance. But the stark reality, our actual forest area falls way, way short of that target today. And this isn't just a missed statistic. When we miss these numbers, millions of people who live on the fringes of these forests and rely on them every single day for their livelihoods suffer the immediate, real-world consequences.
So why exactly are we struggling so much with our land assets? Sadly, the primary culprits of land degradation are overwhelmingly human-driven. We've got mining in states like Jharkhand and Chhattisgarh leaving these deep, abandoned scars all over the earth. Overgrazing is heavily degrading the land in Gujarat and Rajasthan. And then, in places like Punjab and Haryana, over-irrigation is actually causing severe waterlogging that increases the salinity and alkalinity of the soil, completely ruining it for future crops. Throw in the massive amounts of industrial effluents polluting land and water basically everywhere, and it's pretty easy to see how our daily economic activities are actively scarring this finite landscape.
And that brings us to our final zoom-in. Part 4, the living world of soil.
I really want you to completely rethink dirt for a second. Soil is arguably our most important natural resource, and it is very much alive. It takes millions of years to form just a few centimeters of depth through this crazy, complex interaction of relief, bedrock, climate, and countless microscopic organisms. It's not just some inert, dead stuff you wipe off your shoes at the door. It is an ancient, breathing ecosystem that literally supports all forms of life on this planet. But of course, not all soil is created equal. Take alluvial soil, for example. This is the most widely spread, highly fertile soil found across northern plains and river deltas. It's actually categorized by its age, split into the older, coarser stuff called banger and the newer, finer soil known as khadar. On the flip side, you have black soil, also known as regur soil. This stuff is formed from basalt in the Deccan Plateau. It's incredibly clayey, super famous for its ability to hold on to moisture, and it turns out it's absolutely ideal for growing cotton. Understanding these subtle variations isn't just trivia, it's the bedrock, pun totally intended, of our agricultural survival. So we've traveled all the way from the grand global definitions of resources right down to the microscopic clay and sand of our soil. And honestly, it all leads back to this one incredible realization. Roughly 95% of our basic needs for food, shelter, and clothing are obtained directly from this land. We are just temporary tenants here. We share this highly finite land with past generations, and we have an absolute obligation to share it with future ones. So I want to leave you with a thought to chew on. When it is your turn to pass this incredible, finite resource on to the very next generation, what are you going to leave behind? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I really hope this helps you look at the world around you just a little bit differently.